Hi everyone, my name's Daryl. Recreation.gov is the website that you use for making campground reservations at most of the national parks. Now, at the very popular national parks, such as Yosemite, Zion, Grand Teton, and Glacier, it can seem almost impossible to make a campground reservation. Now, over the last 2 years, me and my wife, Nicole, we've been really fortunate enough to make campground reservations at Yosemite in the valley. And I wanted to spend just a couple of minutes today to talk about our strategies for successfully making these reservations. So let's get started. For most of the very popular national parks and the campgrounds associated with them, you're likely going to have to make the campground reservations 5 to 6 months in advance. So what you're going to want to do is go to Recreation.gov and then search for the campground or the national park that you want to make a reservation for. Now, what you're going to want to do is you need to find when the booking window opens for the dates that you're interested in. If we go to Yosemite National Park and then we click on the Seasons and Fees tab, you're going to notice that reservations basically open up on the 15th of every month. Now, Yosemite, these reservations open up 5 months in advance. And if you notice, it opens at exactly 7 a.m. And so you really need to be prepared right at 7 a.m. to make your reservation. There are 3 things that are going to help you succeed in making reservations at these very popular national parks. One of the first things that you can do is be flexible on your dates. So especially if you're going during kind of the peak summer season, if you have a specific date in mind, you're going to have a very difficult time getting that particular date. There are literally thousands of people all ready to go at 7 a.m., especially if you're trying to get reservations at Yosemite. And so if you have a specific date in mind, it's going to be really tough for you to make that reservation. So try to be as flexible as possible. The second thing that you're going to want to do is to practice and prepare beforehand. You don't want to just go to the site at 7 a.m. and just sort of wing it. You really want to have a firm understanding on how the site works. I'm going to go into this into a little more detail just in a second, but you need to know how it works. You need to have the Recreation.gov account created, and you also need to be ready right at 7 a.m., have that site selected and ready to add that site to your cart. The last thing I'd recommend is that you have multiple devices, you have multiple accounts, and you also enlist the help of family and friends. I'll have specific recommendations in just a sec, but the more devices and the more people that help you make reservations, the more likely it is that you're going to get a site. All right, so let's get into practicing. So I'm going to go to recreation.gov, and if I look at, and I'm going to be doing this as I talk about it, if I look at, for instance, Lower Pines Campground at Yosemite, you're going to see that there's not any campsites that are available for us to practice with. So it makes it a little bit difficult. And so as I'm looking at the campsites, it's going to pull them up here in just a second. And so as I'm looking at the campsites, they're all reserved. And even if I go to the day 5 minutes in advance, they're still going to be all reserved. So when you're practicing, you actually need to practice with a different campsite. So I'm going to go to some place close to me, which is Boulder Beach Campground here in Las Vegas. And so as I scroll down, you can now see that I can actually practice. And so basically what you really want to practice doing is selecting the check-in date, being this date right here, and the check-out date, so the date that you're going to check out, and then clicking on Add to Cart. So basically, you're just going to be doing that kind of over and over again till you get really fast at it, because literally what happens is campsites become available and you have to select them very quickly and add it to your cart, and if you're not fast enough, somebody else will grab the site. So really what you want to do, when you click on Add to Cart, it takes a little while for it to go into the cart, is basically just select, and kind of pretend that you're going to add to cart. Select, pretending like you're adding it to the cart, and then I'm removing that site. Select. And you want to make sure that you get really fast with this. You could probably get a mouse. I've got just a touchpad that I'm using on my Mac, so it's a little bit slower. But basically it's just practicing this kind of over and over again until you get really quick with it. The other thing that you want to pay attention to is if you look at these two dates right here, it looks like the only two dates that I can actually select would be this date and this date. But watch what happens. This is actually the checkout date right here. So as soon as I select the check-in date, you get a little diagonal line there that's saying it's available. So now you can select this as your checkout date, and then it's selected. So it's a little bit confusing. So it doesn't look like you would be able to select this one and then this one, but as soon as this is selected, then you can select this one. So just know we got a little bit confused the first time that we did this, and so it's just something you should be aware of up front. So the other thing that you want to probably do is go full screen on the grid here so that you can see more dates. So you can click this button right here to go full screen. Okay, so now you can see actually how many days is this? This is quite a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so this is actually 15 days worth. So just about a little more than 2 weeks. And so it gives you a little more range of dates. And so when you're actually making your Yosemite reservations that morning of the 15th, you'll probably want to go full screen. So the other thing that you want to be aware of is this refresh table button. As reservations are made, all of a sudden reservations will become available. So you can click on the refresh table button, this right here, and that'll refresh the campsites. And so you're kind of going to continually do that over and over again as you're trying to make a reservation at Yosemite, is to hit that refresh table button. So the next thing that you're going to want to do, other than practicing like crazy, is really get a good idea on what campsites that you want to reserve. So you're going to have to do a little bit of research. One other thing that you can do to give yourself the most chances for success is to have multiple accounts and multiple devices all ready to go to make a reservation. So as I mentioned, me and my wife Nicole, the last 2 years we got reservations at Yosemite. And this last year we decided to kind of video record ourselves making a reservation just so that you could kind of see the process. And I want to show you just the setup that we had. Okay, so this is basically our setup. So we have our 6 devices right here. They're all logged in, and they're all have the campsite selected. So basically all we have to do is click the add to cart button, and Nicole is moving her mouse right over to the top of that. And so we basically had 6 devices. We chose 4 of our favorite sites, and we selected those sites beforehand, and right at 7 a.m. we were basically ready to select them. And so really what you want to do as much as possible is have multiple devices all set up, ready to go at exactly 7 a.m. Click the add to cart button. And so for instance, on my device here, I would select, for instance, this campsite as the check-in date, this as the checkout date, and then I would put my mouse right over here on the add to cart button, and then right at 7 a.m. on all the devices that I had, I'd quickly go through and try to select each of them to try to nab a campsite. So the more devices that you have that are trying to nab a campsite, probably the better your success will be. All right, so you'll recall that when I first went to the Lower Pines campground, how it looked like this. And there's no way to practice, and there's no way to select campsites before that 7 a.m. start time, right? So all of a sudden, it's like an hour before the reservations are open. At 6 a.m. exactly, the sites go from looking like this to looking like this right here. And so you can, at this point, you can select the campsites, but you can't add them to your cart. If you try to add them to your cart, it'll give you an error. So it's basically just making sure that they're selected and then getting ready to hit that add to cart button. All right, so on the morning of the 15th, as part of your preparations, what you're going to need to do is get the world clock open. So here's the web address for the Las Vegas one. Just do a search for world clock. And what I do is I take the window and I kind of change it a little bit, but it's really important that you have the seconds showing. So what we do is right at 7 a.m., so pretty much 10 seconds beforehand, I'll start doing a countdown, 10, 9, 8. That way, me and my wife are both on the same page and we're ready to go. And so here's the little video of this year as we're getting ready to try to make our Yosemite reservations. 6:59, 15 seconds. We got 40 seconds to go.
Stretched.
Come on.
This is going to give us a 5-second.
Okay, 10, 9, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, go. So the other thing that you're going to really need is patience. So the last 2 years, even though we were ready to go at 7 a.m., we had multiple sites selected, we had the world clock open right at 7 a.m., we hit the add to cart button. Yeah, we didn't get sites. So we got errors and it didn't go through, and we thought we had it, but we didn't. So you need to be patient. So what happens is people that are maybe a little faster, maybe they have a faster internet connection, maybe they got lucky, I don't know. So somehow, some way, sometimes other people, they'll get multiple sites, or they'll find a site and they'll try to nab another site because it's a little bit better. But basically, after you selected a site and added it to your cart, you basically have 15 minutes to check out, or it's going to release all the sites. And so people will drop sites and then they'll check out, and then all of a sudden those additional sites will become available to you. So the first year it took us 45 minutes to get a reservation. So we started at 7. We didn't get a reservation until about 7:45 or 7:50, I think. And that actually might be generous. We might actually not have got one until after 8 o'clock. So basically, you need to have your table open, and you need to be persistent. You need to keep hitting the update table button, this guy right here, the refresh table button. And what will happen is it will refresh the table. What's nice is you don't have to scroll down, okay? So any new reservations that all of a sudden, any campsites that do become available, they will show up right at the top. And so just keep hitting that refresh table button. So you really need to be patient, you need to be persistent, but you need to be ready. You need to add that campsite as quickly as possible and add it to your cart. And even though you think you got it, those first couple times you might not get it. So it's frustrating, but you can do it. We've done it the last 2 years. If you're patient, if you're persistent, if you prepare, you can actually get a campsite. So my last recommendation is to get help. Enlist the help of family and friends to help you make reservations. You'll want to have an account created for each person and make sure that you know what the email address, the login is for that person, as well as their password. And basically have everybody trying to help you make reservations. You could probably share accounts. I have heard though that there are some security implementations on Recreation.gov, and if it sees multiple logins from different locations, it might put a CAPTCHA on, which might make it a little more difficult to log in. And so I would probably create accounts for every person. Just make sure that you know the login and the password of that account. So as soon as that person nabs a campsite, have them call you, keep your phone open if you aren't trying to use it to make reservations, and then log in as that person's credentials, and then you can pay for the reservation with your credit card. So that's it. I've told you everything I know, so I really hope this helps you get your reservations. If you got some value from this video, please hit the like button. YouTube really looks at the likes, and the more likes I get, the more likely it is to send this content out to other folks. And also consider subscribing. I got a lot of great content. It's good stuff about camping and about hiking with dogs. And yeah, you don't want to miss any of my upcoming content. And I hope to see you in the next one again very soon.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago. but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago.